Freedom is elusive. Freedom is one of those terms that it's like you say what it is, but I'm not often sure if we know what it is. I mean, especially in America today, man, the word freedom gets thrown around quite a bit. And usually it's in the context of something that we value and something that we're proud of, or something that we're even claiming as our right. That people died and fought for freedom. That I am free to fill in the blank. A lot of the times, though, I've noticed that the definition of freedom has changed a bit over the years. Whenever I'm reading biographies, I love reading biographies. There's something about them that they bring a humanness to life that I connect with, that I strive toward, that I crave. And a lot of the times I'm reading biographies. Recently I got on a kick of reading presidential biographies. Or at least founding father biographies. Because I read Eisenhower and I read JFK, but I also was reading stuff about Hamilton. And in particular Benjamin Franklin. So not a president, but an important early figure. And it's interesting whenever you go back about 100 years or so and you read the documents, or even go back 250 years ago, when you're reading things like the Declaration of Independence, and the way they talk about freedom is very different than the way I hear it talked about in the 21st century. Even just 70 years ago, freedom always came with a cost. Not just when we're talking about, wars that were fought. No, a cost to the person that is free. So whenever World War II came about, freedom meant having rations of gasoline. Freedom meant making sure that you took all of your resources to help with the effort that's being fought overseas. Freedom never meant bypassing the common good. It always meant that you have the right and the ability to choose to sacrifice for the greater good, for those beyond yourself. Yet today, the concept of freedom is very different. It has more to do with convenience. It has more to do with preference. It has more to do with things that are quite trivial, that sacrifice things that are quite valuable. Why am I talking about all kinds of freedom? No, this isn't a 4th of July commercial or anything like that. I'm actually reflecting on Galatians. In particular, Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. Because you see, when it comes to issues of freedom, it isn't something that is new. It isn't something that we just struggle with in the Western world in America. No, issues of freedom touch every aspect of society, even the church, even in the first century. And you see Christians in the book of Jude, you see Christians in the book of 1 Corinthians using their freedom to selfishly gain. But Paul is emphatic that freedom in Christ has a specific definition that costs you something. It's not just about what you gain. Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. By whom? By Jesus. I mean, chapter 5 of Galatians is all about freedom in Christ. And it's coming off of some of the most powerful passages in all of the New Testament, like Galatians 3:28, where there is neither Jew or Gentile, slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. It's this identity statement that comes with a responsibility. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, verse 13. And then he says this, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. No, as Christians that are redeemed in Jesus, we have been set free. We have been called to be free, but we have not been called to use freedom to indulge the flesh, to selfishly serve us for self-preservation moves. Because in Christ, freedom doesn't preserve preference or convenience. Freedom looks more like Jesus hanging on a tree than it does some of our social media feeds. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Well, then what should we use our freedom for, Paul? Rather, serve one another humbly in love. Christ has set you free from sin, from sensual indulgences, from the bondages of slavery to death and decay. For what purpose? So that then you can become a servant to all. So that then you can become like Christ, who did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, something to be used for his own convenience. Instead, he was free to set down those advantages, to take on the form of a human, and to experience death on a cross, not merely so that he can go down in history as a figure of sacrifice. No. Death on a cross so that he can serve all. To serve all. You see, freedom in Christ was never meant to be something that pads your own stats or gives you a deeper sense of comfort. Freedom in Christ is still connected to the call of Christ, to deny yourself, lay down everything, and follow him, to take up your cross. In Christ, we were set free so that then we can become servants and slaves of all. My challenge for you this week is this. How are you choosing to use your freedom in Christ? How are you choosing to use the freedom that you even maybe have inherited from living in America? How are you choosing to use your freedom? Is it to serve yourself? Or is it to serve those around you? You know, the Bible has a lot to say about serving the least of these. The Bible has a lot to say about loving your neighbor. The Bible has a lot to say about loving your enemies. At some point, on some level, we need to come face to face with the fact that we were set free so that we can become a servant to anyone and everyone that comes into our path. My prayer for you this week is that you will learn to truly be a little more free. I love you guys. Have a good week.